In 1981, I think I describe myself as a young rebel, and I was very eager to have my perspectives known.
I was a local councillor in the Lewisham Council for the ward Grinling-Gibbons, and at the same time I was an educator. I worked at the Grinling-Gibbons Primary School as its deputy and then its head teacher.
I was a full-time unpaid carer, just as I am now, but I work part-time.
So I grew up in an area called Sydenham, which is in the Borough of Lewisham, and opposite us was a park, Mayo Park in Sydenham. In that area there were a lot of big houses with gardens, and so we used to do, it's called scrumping, where we used to, I was the youngest, so I would be the one that would get hoisted over the fence to the apple trees or the pear trees or whatever fruit trees it was. Then the rest would follow, and then we'd pack our jumpers or bags or whatever with fruits and then run.
When my other children were home, I'd go to work in the evening, although I was a full-time carer, because money wasn't available as it is now. It's still difficult, but you need extra cash.
My secondary school, Sydenham Girls' School on Dartmouth Road in Forest Hill. And so I went to that school from 76 to 81.
The Walworth Road, the most famous road. Not many black people. East Street Market, you might find 2 or 3 just walking through. No yam and banana in East Street Market. If you wanted yam and banana, you'd have to go to Brixton. And
so on the one hand, I was sort of conscious and aware of black civil rights and things, but then at school, I felt like I was stripped away of my rights.
Well, going back to that time, it's important to understand that circumstances were different. At that time, the way society looked at the black community was quite different. The community were looked upon as immigrants who had come to this country and who were out to take out of the country as much benefit as they could without giving anything back. We had a police that were in essence managing the local situation that did not have anything like an empathy or understanding of the needs of black people, particularly black children and black youth, and often reacted in hostile ways that made matters worse for all concerned.
You know, we experienced quite a lot of racism. I have memories of neighbours on one side, you know, calling us names.
I probably wouldn't be concentrating on that. I'll be concentrating on raising my children. Remember, they're all boys, so I had to keep a very close eye on them. So apart from going to work, I wouldn't have done anything else.
There was places like around Lewisham that you just couldn't go as a black person because you would experience racism. I mean, we weren't welcome in many places. So I think that's why we used to spend a lot of time in the park.
The situation of the Newcastle fire, the way the media and the police were behaving towards, where the police were behaving toward black people young black people in the first place, my brain started telling me that something needs to be done. I need to take part in these things. When this first started, you know, black people, young black boys were being arrested. I could look at my bedroom window where I looked from upstairs and said they're grabbing somebody off the street, chuck them in the back of a van, things like that. So I thought, no, something needs to be done. But I didn't like the way the police and the media were portraying the loss of 13 lives. So then I heard that there would be a demonstration. I heard I heard it on the radio. So I just make sure there was enough food in the house and told the boys where I was going.
I met my cousin and my friends, and then we met up, and then we went to the party, and 3 of them, the boys, they went inside, and myself and my other school friend, we were downstairs, and then she was saying that she had to go, she had to go home. And so we asked the boys, or one of the boys, to walk us to the cab station on New Cross Road. And so we got the cab, and she went home and I went home. And then in the morning, a few hours later, I think it was, the phone was ringing, and it was one of the boys' mums asking me, have I seen her son?
Well, it was shocking. It hadn't really been something that anybody of that age group, the school-age community, would experience. It really provoked a tremendous outrage across schools and with parents that this type of event could happen, and it didn't look as though it was being thoroughly investigated. And so I think that that impression must have made its way down to a lot of young people who themselves felt that suddenly they were being victimized for something that they had nothing to do with.
And I said, yeah, he's at the party. He was at a party, and she started panicking, saying there was a fire at the party. And then I think I stayed awake until I think the news came on really early in the morning. And then the next day, she still couldn't find him. She kept ringing, and I said, I don't know, where he is. That's when I saw on the news, what had happened. And then my cousin, I call him my cousin because we're really close, he was missing as well. And then eventually I found out that he had died. As
a local councillor, I had contact with some of the families, and I was involved in some of the reactions to the New Cross fire, which was the issue behind the Black People's Day of Action. The fire was a vicious and tragic incident that has never been thoroughly explained, but most of the community locally thought that it had racialist overtones. And it also thought that the police were not particularly interested in fully understanding the context of the fire, and were too quick to rush to judgment and start turning the issue around as though it was a community-generated incident. And that just alienated totally, not just Black people in Lewisham, but it brought Black people involvement from across the country.
And then on the day of the march, it was a school day, and I remember it was kind of raining, it was miserable and raining, and we got called to an assembly, and the whole assembly was about this march and what had happened. And then there's no way I could bear to just go into a classroom with a shut door and just be in that place for the whole day. And so I decided that I asked some of my friends, if they're coming. They said no, they're not coming.
Well, I joined the march with a group of people who were from the Deptford area. And as you go on a demonstration, you sometimes lose track with who you're with, especially in the early burly of the jostling that happened along the way. And so I met a number of people who I knew or who were political figures at the time. And we were just able to, I suppose, experience this desire to strike, I suppose, a chord for change.
Before I came out, I could hear the banging of the drums along the street, because I already heard it on the news that it's going to happen anyway. But so by the time I'd finished what I need to do in my house, they're already gone under that bridge. So by the time I got the elephant, they had stopped. Well, I think they stopped. I'm not sure where the front was, and it definitely wasn't in the front. I'm joining it there. And somebody handed me a banner, and I'll hold one end, and I think it said on it, 13 dead, nothing said.
It felt like a long walk to the gates, and I was thinking, how am I going to get out of here, you know? And then there was a teacher at the gate, and he said to me, you know, I can't allow you to go through the gates. I said, yeah, I know. So then he said, well, are you planning on going to somewhere? I said, yeah, I'm going to the march. And he said, how are you planning on getting out of the school? So I said, I'm climbing over the gate, you know, and he just looked at me and he just like winked at me, you know, as if to say, like, go for it. There's a bus terminals in Forest Hill, and you can get a 171 bus straight to the Marquis of Granby, which is opposite Goldsmiths. I saw a couple of my friends from school, the ones that was at the party, and then we just joined in like the rally at the house, and then we, when it was time, we just started marching with people.
We joined the march all the way from Deptford, all the way through to Blackfriars Bridge, and then through central London, passing through Fleet Street and dealing with all of the hostilities that the whole march had to deal with at the time. So, yeah, all the way through to Marble Arch.
I just kept looking at people's faces to see if I knew anybody, and every now and again I'd recognise like faces of older teenagers or older people that, you know, I knew, so I felt like comfortable that I'm doing the right thing.
The only reason why I'm there is because I just did not like the way we are treated. So that's why I was there. And so I was angry. I wasn't angry about any individuals. I wasn't angry that I'm going to start throwing bricks or stone. I'm just angry while I'm there. And everything seems to be fine with people talking to each other. And something, Matt's loudspeaker was going. But because at the back, you can't really tell what's happening at the front. But by the time we got to Blackfriars Bridge, at the beginning of the bridge, or towards Blackfriars Bridge, you knew that something is happening. Because in a demonstration, you see, if you're at the front, you don't know what's happening at the back. And if you're at the back, you don't know what's happening at the front. But then we realised that the police then there wanted to turn us back, which didn't make sense. Because the only other bridge we would have gone over, really, is Westminster Bridge. And I definitely know they would have stopped you once you tried to get there, because they think you're trying to get to Parliament.
There was fear, and there was animosity, and there was discrimination, and there was mistrust. So the actual march itself was not necessarily a pleasant experience. It could be frightening if you looked around and you saw bricks being thrown at you as you're walking down past building sites, as you're walking through Fleet Street, and you hear people shouting racist epithets at you as you're moving. That could be quite frightening. But you had an inner strength, you had an inner desire to stand up and to be firm, because you wanted to show that you would not accept that this was the way things needed to be. And you wanted to argue the case for a campaign for freedom, for justice, and for the rights of the black community to participate in things that they felt to be important, even a party, without being attacked.
I just knew that I had to be there to, you know, represent my friends.
The police then, as the police began to try to turn people back, but we decided we weren't going to go back. So we just carried on. The rest of it, he just marching and shouting. So the rest of it is slightly vague how we end up in Fleet Street. And that was the worst thing I could ever experience. The office workers were emptying the waste paper bin. That's how they started first, the waste paper bin on as we had gone by. And then they start throwing chairs, office chairs, out the window. And anything they could find, they were throwing it out the window on the demonstration. And I remember saying, I'll jump back on, but I want you to imagine this. We're walking along the road there, the stuff is coming over. So now I've gone on the pavement. It's like that pavement there. So I wouldn't get hit. And the policeman pushed me back out on the road and said, if you didn't want to be hit, why did you come?
All I remember was we were still there when it was dark. And when I got home, I think my mum or somebody said that they saw me on News at 6 or something like that.
We carried on, but I'm not even sure now how, I think we end up in Hyde Park.
I started to look at the newspaper clippings, and I think one of them said a Black Day in Blackfriars. I was thinking, what does that mean? That's, you know. And then whereas the local newspaper from around here, South London, said our march was marched with dignity, you know. And I was thinking like, huh? And so then I started to, anytime a paper came out, I started to collect like clippings and headlines and stories and you know, and started to just look and see how we were being like represented.
It's the way it was dealt with that angered me, the way the police did it and the media did it. And even after that, I was angry, or angry more than annoyed, is that even the Prime Minister never sent one word of condolence to those family.
It was my final year at school, you know, 1981. And it was the same year as the uprisings in Brixton, and so that year for me was just, I think it was it's like it was a change for me in terms of I am standing up for my rights now. I kind of got more and more into my music, and I think for me that was a way of maybe even coping with it, because every time anything came up about the New Cross fire, you know, it was emotional, it was traumatizing, and I was a teenager, you know, and my friends we were teenagers and nobody counselled us.
So whatever group there is that I think it's working for the common good of the area, I also think as a black person, my voice should be heard and I should have my foot around the table like everybody else.
There's an elder in Lewisham called Joshaka, and occasionally I go and, you know, talk to him. We sit down and talk, and I remember one day we were sitting outside his house, and we were just sitting on the wall talking, you know, and I was saying to him, you know, so, you know, what is it then? What do I need to do, you know, to keep on doing my work, you know, and you know, and he's an elder to me as a Rastafari, and he just said to me, it's really simple, it's not complicated at all. And then he said to me, just practice love and kindness.
So it doesn't, all of it means you have to demonstrate, you know, gonna march. You can still use your voice, and I'll attend enough meetings, so I'll stop them in their tracks in the meeting to give them my view. And in most cases, they normally listen.
I believe it's possible to work for change by making your voices heard within the institutions, and also by being clear about what it is you want. And so throughout my life, I've been really it's been important to me to seek political change. So it was a change in culture within the schooling system, within the town hall, And also the really, really challenging one was change in culture within the local police. And I believe that what the Black People's Day of Action did was started to get that debate rolling, because people thought, hello, these guys are really serious. It's not going to go away. You cannot brush this one under the carpet and hope that it will go away. And that's the change, I think, that happened through Black People's Day of Action and the further demonstrations that took place around the time.